Since they were smart enough not to give me a gavel. And I appreciate that. We'll go ahead and try to get started. Like to thank everybody for being here this morning in what will be our last meeting of 2023. I do want to make a couple of quick announcements. I would like to welcome Councilmember Doreen Garlid from the City of Tempe, filling in for the Vice Mayor. And I believe Mayor Rodriguez from the City of Tolleson may be online. Or not. But we'll welcome them. Thank you for being here as well. Today we are joined by the Guidehouse team, Monique and Rob and Sean. Thank you for being here. Which what I think is our last push through. I'll turn it over to Jessica. If she's got anything to go, we'll get this work session started.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning, members of the boards. Today we'll begin our study session, which is going to be led by Guidehouse, our strategic plan consultant. What we're going to do today is walk this board through the revised goals and strategies. This is a follow-up to that October study session that we had, a retreat that we had. Following the board retreat, we also had an executive leadership team retreat to refine those goals and strategies. We've been working through the different layers of Valley Metro staff to present this information and solicit their input as well. It is our intention to come back to this board in the month of January, our next cycle, and request your approval for adoption of our strategic plan. Following this meeting, we'll begin developing the key performance indicators and the metrics by which we will evaluate progress against these goals. We measure our progress and we adjust accordingly as needed so that we can hit our goals and respond to changing conditions around us. And without further ado, I'd like to turn it over to Monique Earle of the Guidehouse team to walk us through our goals and strategies. Valley Metro Executive Leadership is also here on hand to answer questions and contribute to discussion as necessary. Thank you.
Thank you, Jessica. Excited to be here. Hello, board members. Thank you so much for having us back. It's always good to get invited back, right? Your parents say you were raised right if folks invite you back. So I'm super excited to be here to really, walk through what we heard from you at the last meeting back in September. It's a beautiful day in the Valley, the kind of day where Angelinos like me think about moving to Phoenix. And I don't even worry about what happens around here in April, May, June, July, all those months. It's a nice, crisp, beautiful day. And I'm looking forward to walking through this with you. Please feel free to stop me if you have any questions or need more elaboration. As Jessica mentioned, we have the executive sponsors here for each initiative that can really help expound on what's going to happen next as it relates to your strategic plan and this process. So as many of you know, this process started back in March when Guidehouse began working with the leadership team here. And there were sort of 4 phases, and I should probably click here. There we go. 4 phases to the strategic planning process. We looked at the current state assessment, which is how are the riders experiencing Valley Metro? How does the staff feel? What are the sort of critical pain points that are happening around the region? And how effectively does the current organizational structure, both at the board and leadership level, kind of support the potential for change? You then had a future state assessment looking at various trends. What are some of your peer agencies doing? And then moving into the strategic framework, which is, the part of the discussion and the planning process, which you all were very much involved in and very much influenced the last time we were here. And now you're in the implementation plan phase. This is the landing the plane sort of phase of the strategic plan process. How can the recommendations be implemented? Who's going to be responsible? And then how are you all going to track and measure success when it comes to that? So if you look at the next slide here, it really is looking at what did we hear from the board during the retreat. And there are 5 key priority areas. The first, delivering excellent customer experience. This is the cornerstone of what you all focused on. It's the cornerstone for the agency, but it really is the key and central part of what you're trying to do in terms of the strategic planning process. The next thing in terms of priority was really investing in talent. Pardon me, investing in talent. You know, what does your agency and the employees who are going to be responsible for delivering this service, what does it look like? What do they need from a professional standpoint? How do you look at succession planning and the future of the organization? Are we making fundamental changes to how we do our business and ensuring that the structure of the organization and morale is centered on that? We heard a lot about security in transit, and that really is an essential part of the customer experience as well. And you all had a lot of input in regard to security. Leveraging industry best practices and innovations on data and technology is going to be key moving forward. How do we not just collect data, but how do you use data to sort of inform your management and operations? What will this data do and what will it tell us in order to help provide a better customer experience and a better delivery of services? Also delivering on stakeholder collaboration. That is not only your external stakeholders and looking at the regional partners and looking at riders as stakeholders, but also looking at staff as stakeholders, looking at our legislature, things of that nature as a part of the overall experience. And how does storytelling impact that? And what is the value that you're creating for stakeholders across the system? And then it was the proverbial magic wand. What if you had a magic wand, how would you transform this system and actually turning this magic wand into a real tool that, you know, saying that this is not completely outside of the scope of what can be done, but how do we start to build resources around just developing a strong region and a fully connected multimodal system and innovative approaches to the work that you all have been doing. So what you see highlighted here is really your feedback. These are sort of the outcomes of what we heard from that study session and that retreat, and how that has been embedded into the list of initiatives that will come out of each priority area that the Valley Metro leadership team will begin to work on. So for example, under delivering excellent customer experience, you have incorporating human-centered design principles and practices into customer wayfinding and communications. And so that was, you know, a lot of what you all said, where you kind of looked at, you know, how do we humanize our approach to providing service? How do we look specifically at certain demographics and underrepresented communities and making sure that they have a stellar experience? If you're going to go into investing in talent, one concrete step is assessing and understanding the staffing needs of the agency in delivering Valley Metro's mission and vision now and into the future. A particular tangible action for security is evaluating the physical infrastructure. You talked a lot about bus shelters. You talked a lot about aesthetics and design, and how do you make sure that that is a part of sort of the next phase of planning and strategy. And so those were all key elements that came out of the discussion. So here is just a little bit of what you will see in the full report in terms of what Valley Metro leadership will continue to work to deliver on. And then there were some foundational goals, and none of what you see will happen without these key foundational goals in which your comments were also a reflection as it relates to this. So strong leadership and execution, board governance, operational excellence, optimizing service performance to meet evolving regional transit needs, improving service quality through enhanced planning, integrating DE&I principles into the organization. All of these things, again, which you discussed, will be a central and key part of the next phase of this strategic planning process. So what we have here are just some more detail as it relates to the initiatives. And so looking at how will the team start to really deliver on a number of the initiatives that you have here. I'm looking at 1.3, which is establishing a holistic customer experience program and making sure it's institutionalized across the organization. You have someone on the leadership team that is dedicated to delivering that and working across the agency to make sure that this actually happens in a way that is not just sort of micro focused, but really focused in a holistic 360 degree way. The next initiative that we focused on in terms of priority areas was investing in talent. And so you sort of have, what does the next generation of staffing look like? And how do you, as not only a board, but also the agency, look at your current employees, retaining those current employees and helping them build a career at Valley Metro that sustains not only them, but the organization into the future. And then also fostering excitement about employment and growth at Valley Metro, making Valley Metro a great place to work, really being a priority for the strategic plan and for the agency. There's a lot of competition out there now, not only in terms of salaries and benefits, but really the morale and ensuring that employees have what they need overall. So your organization will be focused on making sure that this happens at the staff level and across the board in terms of your recruitment and things of that nature.
Monique, I want to just pause for just a moment. We're a couple of ways through our specific initiative or our goals and specific initiatives. So I want to invite the board at any point, if you've got a question or comment or feedback on those initiatives, please jump in. There's so much content, we don't want to wait until the end. Thank you.
As long as we've stopped.
Sure.
Let's not worry about going through the chair. If you've got a question, hit your thing and just shout it out. I realize that sounds like it's going to be chaos, but
Really? Oh, like really?
let me clarify, for this meeting only. Not the regular one, not anything else, just this one. But if you've got a question while Monique is going through it, please just kind of stop her and go through that.
Yeah, please don't be shy. There's a lot of content. I didn't want to go through each and every initiative. I know you all have seen a lot of this. You saw this in advance, but happy to stop and respond or allow the leadership to respond.
Okay, so I have a question then.
Sure, go for it.
Under deliver excellent customer service under the first initiative, I wasn't sure how we were going to do this. We talk about 1.5 is continue to innovate, integrate, and market mobility solutions, microtransit, customer service offerings, et cetera. I think one of the things that we could absolutely take advantage of, and obviously my city along with Avondale, Surprise, Chandler, I think there's another one, are doing micro transit kind of on our own, but we're looking to get those integrated into as a connection point into a fixed route. In some cases, others they're not. Like to maybe see some emphasis in how we talk about micro transit as it in in its infancy as it is right now today, compared to how it may be down the road 10 years from now. Or how the legislature is going to look at what are we doing public transit wise if we're not going to always be doing a fixed bus route. Kind of taking advantage of the partners that have already kind of started it and really use Valley Metro's power to market that, to try to, let's let the cities that are paying for it guinea pig it so that we can figure out if this is going to work on a bigger scale. But do that in partnership while it may or may not be necessarily a Valley Metro sponsored activity.
Thank you, Chair Sip. With many of our programs that we offer, including our services, some of that is directly operated by Valley Metro, or we're serving as a broker for mobility services, or we're serving as a partner, a technical support, a planning support in some instances to our member cities. This is among the many different services that we offer. And in fact, this planning support, this technical leadership is something that's already included in all of our intergovernmental agreements between RPTA and our member cities. So what we'd like to do with this item, and Chair Stipp and I have had these conversations, is as we think about the design of not only our fixed route network, we're looking at the design of mobility solutions across our service area, which can include many different types of infrastructure and mobility. We'll be working with our cities as well as our partners at MAG.
Okay. I have a question. On item number 3, priority area security, 3.4, evaluate the physical infrastructure and security of regional transit assets and stations and make necessary improvements. My understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that that's what we do that already.
We do some of that.
Okay.
Yeah, Councilmember Pastor, we do some of that. We have deepened our engagement and are taking a fresh look at our system. The way people interact with our system and behave in public spaces has changed. So how we originally designed the system may need to be updated. And I'll give you some examples. We're currently undergoing a lighting campaign update. So looking at our lighting, changing out our bulbs, ensuring that we don't have blind corners and dark spaces on and near our stations on the light rail and the streetcar systems. We've been working with City of Phoenix on the 19th and Dunlap station in particular, and we've already made modifications to that station, which we reopened in October, to the transit center and areas surrounding the station itself. We have also been collaborating with City of Phoenix staff, and soon we'll be doing some walk audits of the stations and the station areas to identify opportunities for improvement. Those improvements could be maintenance. We know that chipping paint or unclear signage, poor lighting makes customers feel unsafe or insecure, so we can address those. And also, as we think about building our new stations and our new infrastructure, we have to consider crime prevention through environmental design. So we have dipped our toe in the water, but we are leaning in hard and fast to CPTED principles.
Okay. And the reason why I'm asking this question is because I know the cost. And so my question is really, we have this on here, we go through the process, we know what the cost is, will we be able to do it? And that's really, I'm like, is it possible? And it's one of the goals. So I don't know if we put it as a goal, if we know what the answer is going to be.
You just want to ensure it's not on a wish list, that it is
Correct.
actually
Yeah.
tangible.
Correct.
So in order to cover the cost, and that really is where the rubber meets the road between the strategic plan and our operating and capital budgets. To make specific improvements for some, we would have to include those in budget items. For others, like the lighting campaign I mentioned, that's being supported by our existing operating budget. I think that the retrofits to the 19th and Dunlap station were supported through our capital program with City of Phoenix. So sometimes there might be a capital item for these CPTED pieces. Same with the goal of leveraging technology. Something we've touched on in this forum is upgrades to our camera system. That will take a budget item. First, we have to design the project. So that, I don't know if that will appear in our FY25 draft capital program, but it's something that we should expect to see in the years ahead. And not all of this is a 5-year plan. So not all of these initiatives are going to be complete. Most of them will be complete in FY25. It'll take us a little time.
Okay. And because we're unique in how we operate, and each one of us, each city does a different way of operating and how funding is allocated, I think that's an important piece because Valley Metro can do this analysis and pieces, but it's really going to end up being the cities that are going to have to determine, are we going to follow what is said in this document? And in not necessarily this document, but in particular 3.4.
Yeah, yeah. And that,
I
so
just want to be clear on that.
the goals are written at a fairly high level, you'll find. So we're going to make some investments in crime prevention through environmental design. Will we have the funds and the resources to execute all of the possible ideas? Probably not, but that's where conversations with the cities, that's where RTAG, Transportation and Rail Management Committees, and this board will shape those decisions moving forward about what we do and what we don't do.
Okay.
And Jessica, is 3.1 related to that, which talks about the partnerships with not only the police departments, but the member cities? That's also.
Yeah, so some of that, it's things like collaborating on our partnerships to patrol, which we have been leaning into, and that has been a relatively cost neutral item. We are working to expand monitoring of our existing camera system with our 3 rail cities. That is relatively cost neutral. When we get to the point where we're updating that obsolete equipment, that does become a capital item. It will be something that we'll have to tackle in this 5-year horizon. When, to what extent we invest, that's a decision that's going to be made by this board. We'll bring up.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
just have a couple questions. Jessica, so are you going to be bringing back this list with recommendations or cost associated that we could take a look and say, okay, we want to work on this one, we want to work on this one, not this one, so it helps us prioritize what we're going to be doing in the future?
Yes. Thank you, council member. It won't be necessarily here. We have this project. Here are all of the goals. Here are all of the projects we're proposing. It will be on a project and discipline basis. And a lot of that comes out of those member cities. We will tie it back and say, in the strategic plan under initiative, 3.4, here is what we're proposing to do. It will be an iterative process. As we implement the plan, we'll be refining those initiatives and of course, presenting to this board and our associated subcommittees budgets for them.
So, okay, thank you. So I just want to make a comment. So I had the opportunity of riding the light rail last weekend because my son and my daughter-in-law had been complaining, they live downtown and have been complaining for quite some time that they don't feel safe riding the train. And they're 27, 28 years old. So capable of taking care of themselves. But so I rode it with them last weekend and I feel their concern. And so my son has instructed his wife that she's not to ride the light rail by herself because that's how unsafe they feel. What are we doing? I mean, what are we doing to make sure that the residents feel safe on these trains? I know we've talked about this in the past, but maybe we need to up the initiative for security because when you have 27, 28-year-olds that don't feel safe to ride on the train, they're more than capable of taking care of themselves. But when you put that to the senior level, I mean, they certainly sometimes can't take care of themselves. I feel my son's pain, but I'm as a board member, what are we doing to ensure that riders feel safe on those trains?
So moving forward, council member, there will be initiatives under or actions under each of these initiatives. Right now, what I can tell you, we are leaning in and deepening our relationships with our member cities. You mentioned downtown Phoenix. We're conducting joint patrols with City of Phoenix Police Department across the system to increase the presence of law enforcement personnel who can handle violations of criminal code, which we cannot. We're working with our security contractor, Allied Universal Security, on a process right now where they have very specific goals and timelines that they have to accomplish over the next less than 60 days now to continue to retain that contract. Most of those are focused around their workforce shortage. This week, for instance, we are fielding a little over I think we're at about 68% of our scheduled shifts are covered by Allied Universal. So getting those numbers up is our first line of defense, if you will, so that we can have people who are intercepting customers as they approach platforms and onboard vehicles, ensuring they have fare and they're obeying code of conduct, and then working with law enforcement partners, not just in Phoenix, but also Tempe and Mesa, to ensure that we have responsiveness when we're encountering customers who aren't cooperative with code of conduct or who are violating criminal codes.
And are we looking at the time frame, or not the time frame, but like the times of days? Are we recognizing, is there key times that are more pertinent where these kinds of issues are happening?
Yeah.
Where we can shift the personnel to those timeframes or days of the week?
Yeah, thank you. So we have made a couple of key changes to our security deployment. The biggest, I think, is subdividing our system into smaller zones so that we can ensure continuous coverage. The zones are typically 3 stations. It varies a little bit according to density of ridership. And then we're looking at ridership data, customer contact data, security incident data, and law enforcement data to determine what level of resources we need within those times. We did have a study session focused on security back in June. I anticipate in 2024, we would have another study session. We're also approaching an executive session meeting with our Valley Metro Rail cities, our board leadership and city leadership to discuss this in executive session, including some of our specific contracts and strategies. We hope that that's going to happen in the month of December.
Thank you so much.
So another aspect of security that is related to this is 3.3, which is the investment in a community partnership initiative that includes trained personnel, social workers, for example, to support vulnerable populations with an overall increased visible presence from the non-traditional security workforce. And so that's just making sure that there are more eyes and a physical presence on the trains and on your bus system to help with, folks that need the help. Any more questions around security that you care to discuss? So let's move into data and technology. And this is really looking at Valley Metro's vision for tomorrow, the future of transportation, and ensuring that Valley Metro has a robust and comprehensive data and technology infrastructure that will help provide accountability, action-based decisions, and improves the operational performance, asset management, reliability, and customer satisfaction, again, in a really robust and data-driven way. So you have several initiatives here, and the first one is looking at improving the automation and reliability of transit data to strengthen the planning and performance of the system, and also your rider communication. So making sure that things are streamlined, you have sort of that on-demand information that you can relay to the riders, and as well as integration amongst the variety of platforms that you have that interface with customers. 4.2 is really understanding customer interaction through the enterprise capture, so your customer relationship management system, being able to capture a lot of that information, and again, using integration and data analysis to support your ridership. The use of analysis of route data and commuter patterns to determine best practice strategies to improve performance. And again, safety. All of this goes back to customer experience. And how are you using the information that you have on rider behavior and the movement of your system to help rider behavior and the movement of your system to help inform the process. Working again alongside your member cities and the stakeholders to improve data sharing, as well as all of the other modes of transportation that are within the system. Yes.
I'm sorry, thank you.
I noticed recently with a lot of the infrastructure and a lot of construction, bus stops are moving. Is this the type of information we're going to be able to pinpoint for our riders to let them know? Because I also see it as a safety concern. I was walking around downtown and noticed there's scaffolding above some bus stops and some places where you're buying our transit tickets. So is this where our data from cities and local businesses that are building on our lines, are we going to know this information here and then push it out to our riders so they're going to know, hey, my bus stop is moved today because of the construction on, McDowell and in Avondale Boulevard? Or how is this where we address that?
Thank you, Councilmember White. So this is part of that. We're already doing a lot of this right now. For example, this coming weekend, we have what we call a bus bridge where light rail service will be unavailable for a good part of the weekend to support some construction in downtown and then east of downtown. So I've been steeped in it and working with our communications team, our capital team, and our operations team. But as a user, I also got an alert last night reminding me that this is happening and where I can actually board light rail and buses during that time. So we're doing a lot of this and we're using our tools to proactively push out information. Now, we're still doing what I call analog communication, like signage at our platforms, our stations, and on our bus stops. You'll see a lot of this on the South Central corridor, for example, where bus stops have moved quite frequently. You'll see the bus stop has been removed, and then you'll see a big blue and white sign indicating that there's a new temporary bus stop. And that info is also in our Valley Metro application, and customers are getting push alerts to them. So that's one example of how we're using data and technology to take some of the uncertainty out of using transit. Some of this is also using data and using tech that we have available in most of these instances to better inform our decisions, whether that's service planning and route scheduling decisions, or 4.5 is our decisions about our maintenance program. We have a lot of information. Possessing information alone doesn't make it valuable. It's what we decide to focus on and how we integrate that into the decision making and deepening that focus is a big part of where we're going. And in the last year, we've made big strides, kind of getting us ready for this next level. I'm very excited about this item. You can't fix it if you can't see it. And if you can't cut through all of the streams of big data coming at us, it's just not valuable.
Yeah, what gets measured gets attended to. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any more questions about data and technology? All right, let's move to stakeholder collaboration and looking at how Valley Metro will seek out creative ways to engage stakeholders and will embrace input to strengthen its service, improve operational performance, and provide input on the progress of the strategic plan. The goal is not for it to sort of use the old saying, this to be a document that sits on the shelf. It's alive, it's active, it is something that folks will act on and interface with on a regular basis. And so the goal here is just to maintain open and transparent communication channels with staff and frontline workers, and provide ample opportunities to share feedback and to get new ideas. Your riders have ideas from actually being on the service. Your employees all have ways in which they've thought about how they could improve service, but possibly did not have those mechanisms in which to provide that input to all of you. And so this will be sort of the work that's done here internally to ensure that those opportunities are open and available. Incorporating ways to put those things into action and to build what the system will look like in the future based on that content, and how the employees and staff will play a central role, and riders, will play a central role. Looking at the procurement process, if you look at 5.3, that's what that is all about, making sure that there are diverse ways in which you have contractors and consultants playing key roles in ensuring that the system is performing at its optimal levels. And then really working with the community in various ways on the portfolio of programs and projects, and making sure that you are getting feedback from those hard to reach communities, from demographics that may not normally have a voice, is the goal of this particular priority area. Yes.
Monique, thank you. I wasn't sure if this belonged here or up in number one, so
Mhm.
it probably belongs up there, but I'm concerned going into calendar year 24 as we prepare for the vote on Proposition 479. Got that number right? Yeah, okay. Trying to drill it into my head. That we don't, there's going to be opposition. So I think in the past, we used to think, well, the old saying was the entire West Valley could just not vote and it would still, everything would pass. I think we're gonna need every single vote this time. And we're gonna need to kind of take it, we're gonna need to re-engage, I'm gonna say the West Valley, in what, with as limited amount of bus services that we have in the West Valley. Those that we have are very important, and particularly the express bus services. When we talk about constituencies and, stakeholders and whatnot, we tend to leave that group of people out because they're fairly consistent at times. And they have, at least in the I-10 corridor, have probably suffered the most from poor customer service, which takes us back to number one.
Mhm.
So when we talk about what's going on with transit options and promoting and stakeholders, and it's all about engaging legislators and community and customer service. And so that's why I wasn't sure where this one belonged, but I really think we've got to start treating our express bus services with a little bit more sincerity. Because those people who get skipped and are now late, 3 hours late to work,
Yeah.
are going to tell more than just 10 friends.
Yeah.
And I think that's going to be problematic for us, number one. Number two, we really have a great opportunity to do something for our environmental concerns. We've got obviously pollution issues that we're from a region we're pushing into the next category of pollutant here in the valley.
Yeah.
So if we can reduce those number of trips, which is what express buses are designed to do, we've got multiple advantages there. So I'm not sure where it belonged, but I think we've got to take advantage of that as well going forward.
That could go in several categories across the priority areas. But
If I may, Mr. Chair, so I think what we could do is carve out a specific goal under stakeholder collaboration that involves, or maybe expand on one of these that involves more engagement, public engagement. We've got stakeholder and member agency engagement identified in 5.2 when it comes to making decisions and crafting our plans. But I think storytelling and transparency for the general public could be an explicit goal that belongs here. Maybe that's a 5.5. And then when it comes to, Chair Stip, you mentioned express bus service in particular, and including and especially express bus service in the West Valley. One of our foundational goals is operational excellence, and we'll get to that in a few minutes. Ensuring that we're consistently delivering excellent service is foundational to all of this. Because if the bus doesn't show up on time or it doesn't show up at all, it doesn't matter that we're monitoring it and we know it. So we have leaned in, and Mike Powell and Tom Young are doing a wonderful job of improving, working with contractors as well to improving the performance of our service. And we've got our West Valley bus operations and maintenance, I should say, mobility operations and maintenance request for proposals is on the street right now. And we have adopted a different model with input from the cities on how we're going to accomplish that excellent delivery. So for our staff, what I tell our team all of the time. Their role with respect to continuing Proposition 479 is delivering consistently excellent service and telling the story of what we're doing on behalf of our communities.
I have a question on 5.3. Engage in diversified third-party contractors, consultants for collaborative success, shared projects. I don't know how to ask this, but I guess I'll just ask it. Are we not doing that, or why is it there?
So
Are we wanting to improve?
we're wanting to improve and we're wanting to make it more consistent across all of our projects. We have disadvantaged business enterprise or DBE goals for some of our biggest projects. But we're hearing, and Councilmember Pastor, we've had this conversation, we're hearing from some of our smaller businesses and our historically underutilized businesses that it's still hard to do work with Valley Metro, and it's hard to take advantage of some of the business opportunities that we have. So we're in the still very early stages of developing formal programs and constructs in order to achieve this. It hasn't been as big a priority for our organization in the past as it needs to be. Our new Director of Procurement, Jonathan Thatcher, Chief of Staff, Melissa Boyles, are already collaborating on a framework so that we have specific strategies. Again, we can say it's important, but if you don't know exactly what you're going to do and how you're going to measure it and how you're going to engage with the community, we just aren't going to be as successful as we need to be.
Okay, and I don't know where this would go, but I think our third-party contractors are another voice or arm to the work that's being done. And so how would we craft or put in there quality customer service or or excellent customer experience? Because to me, when something is being built, the customer experience is also those that are affected by something being built. And when someone in that area needs guidance or assistance and they're told it's not my job, or they're bounced around, because this is one of my things at the city with my office, like we can't bounce everybody around. We need to help solve the problem. Where does that land in this space, in particular with third party?
So I think it's 5.4, and we haven't made a clear distinction in our strategies between Valley Metro staff and contractor staff. It is our expectation that our contractors are an extension. They're part of Valley Metro. It's a little bit different disposition than what we've had in the past. And you see some of that baked in, for example, into the RFP on the street right now in West Valley and the way we've structured the contract in East Valley. That's now being taken over by Keolis. Coming up a month from now, we're making more clear performance expectations for them with respect to customer experience, and our team is working with them directly on the oversight and the follow-up. So I think that's incorporating those community voices and being responsive to those community voices. And maybe we can change the language to include responsiveness so that we're being explicit about that feedback back to the community and really closing that communication loop, which is often the piece that kind of falls by the wayside, is that feedback back. I've heard you, here's what we're going to do, what say you, and then it's done.
Yeah, because there's confusion.
Yeah.
There's confusion because you have a Valley Metro staff person, then you have the third party interacting. And then within that third party, there's a fifth party. And I don't know who at the end of the day, who's responsible to that customer to provide the correct answer and give them the quality of service. And then it becomes, this is Valley Metro, and Valley Metro is the one, and then we pull back the onion and we realize, no, this is like the third contractor, fourth contractor, and now we're having to go, I would say, damage control.
Yeah.
So I would like to see something like that. I don't know where in the space or somewhere,
Yeah.
Yeah.
or the contract, so that we could do a better job.
Okay.
To the writer, it's all Valley Metro.
Right.
And so it's the streamlining.
Right, right. So, thank you.
Thank you.
I do. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Jessica, so on 5.4, incorporating community voices. So I'm not sure if you're aware, but the city of Peoria, I've directed our staff to work with your staff. We are going to be doing some short videos with a couple of our council members going out actually on the buses and talking to some of the residents about why they take transportation, and then really describing to our residents what this bus route means for them in Peoria, but also where they can connect to other cities. And so I just wanted to share that with the rest of my board members, that that's an initiative we're taking on our own to highlight what services we have in the city of Peoria.
I love it. Thank you, council member.
Great. So everything that we discussed and all the priority areas all center on one thing, and that is customer experience. That is the priority in the list of all of these initiatives. And so based on what you've seen in the discussion we've had today, do you believe that there's anything significant that is missing from these initiatives in order to move the needle on customer experience?
You know, I think without getting too far into the details or into the weeds, the document holds up pretty well. Jessica, do you have an avenue that if after today, there's been some thought process, how do you want the board to communicate any great ideas that come up tomorrow?
Yeah, I would welcome that. Yeah, sometimes it takes a moment for it to marinate. So I would love it if you would reach back to me, copying Pat, so that we can capture that feedback and incorporate that before we present you that final version in January. Absolutely. The door always remains open. And as Monique mentioned earlier, this is a living document. It will change. We will deepen and get more specific on the strategies and initiatives, and conditions around us are going to change too. And we have to be responsive to that.
Thank you. All right, moving on.
All right. Sounds good. All right. So looking at how do you make all of this happen, right? What are the foundational goals? So looking internally at the leadership, infrastructure for getting this done. Here's some key initiatives. As mentioned, you're going to have executive sponsors. So each member of the executive team has been assigned an area of accountability when it comes to ensuring that this work gets done. And they've been charged with increasing buy-in and making sure that there's data behind the actions that have been taken. 6.2 is just making sure you're engaging staff at all levels by communicating and connecting the strategic plan to their work. So everything that the employees at Valley Metro are doing, they should understand that there is a priority area from the strategic plan that is tied to that work and why it's important. It's not willy-nilly. This is not something that's just been made up or something we've started to do that has not been thought about and really given a priority for the agency. They'll be able to see that on a regular basis. 6.3 is really about looking at diversity, equity, and inclusion and how that plays a role through all your business lines throughout the operation, and making sure that there are definite principles tied to each of those and examining those for impactfulness. And then 6.4 is to embed problem solving and process improvement into Valley Metro's management through dedicated efforts on process optimization and change management strategies to encourage you can tell consultants wrote this. Continuous improvement and increased efficiency. all of that to say there's definite process improvement that needs to happen. And how do you transform the organization to make sure that you're performing at your best levels and most efficiently? Any other comments on leadership and execution? All right, let's go on to something near and dear to your hearts, and that's board governance. And so when my team and I interviewed a lot of you, we talked about governance and governance models and what will work best. And a lot of you gave us feedback, which is incorporated here, on what are some things that should change or be looked at on how to improve from a board of directors process. Onboarding came up across the board. Folks just felt there should be a better onboarding process, and looked at roles and responsibilities to make sure that you guys are also operating at your most effective levels. The board and CEO looking at the board structure and engagement opportunities, and how do you build in ad hoc committees and things of that nature that can help sort of drive the work that you're doing and improve the governance within this space. A lot of boards are large and unwieldy, and everyone gets it. So what's the best way in which to move forward? Also looking at policy guidance from the board and regularly updating the guidance and strategic plan priorities and things of that nature are just going to be key. And then also emphasizing shared duties, responsibilities, and facilitating work across your other regional bodies so that there are effective advocates for transit and mobility solutions across the valley.
While you're taking that drink, myself, Mayor Peterson, and Jack Sellers, Supervisor Sellers, all sit on MAG's Transportation Policy Committee, which is going to be tasked with a large portion of what Valley Metro does from a planning perspective, not the operational piece. So I would encourage every board member to talk to your representative, which I believe is probably your mayor, on the Transportation Policy Committee, and try to start thinking about strategies of how to intermingle or to connect your RPTA function with their MAG functions on TPC. I think that'll be very, very beneficial. Most of us sitting here become very passionate about public transit, and the members of Transportation Policy become very concerned about concrete stuff and lanes of traffic. And they're going to need to understand the importance that you feel about public transit as it relates going forward, especially as MAG's role starts to become more involved in what we have historically done here from that. So I just wanted to kind of talk about that.
Anything else on board governance?
I just want one comment. The town of Gilbert, when we put items on our agenda for our council meetings, each agenda item is specifically written to a strategic initiative, and it's written right on that agenda item. So it might be good for the board when our agendas come forward that we say this item is specifically towards this initiative that was decided by this board. Welcome.
Monique, I would just add, I would make it even more specific, not necessarily the initiative, the strategic outcome we're trying to achieve. So we listed in terms of our strategic outcomes in the city of Avondale. So we want to see the results, and so that might just kind of drill it down a little bit further than what you're saying. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, and the last item I'm going to talk about here before passing it over to your leadership team is operational excellence. And this, again, much like customer experience, being at the center of what happens as it relates to your foundational goals and implementation. And so optimizing service performance to meet current and evolving regional transit needs. This goes back to data and sort of the data-driven way in which you'll start to look at your operation codifying a comprehensive maintenance and operations program, delivering effective transit service with the ability to grow and adapt through FY 2030, improving service quality through enhanced planning, performance management, and continuous process improvement. Mind you, things that are all being done today, but this is taking it to the next level in terms of the operation. And then formalizing the long-range operations and capital investment plan for the next 20 years, aligned with the state of good repair and future system and generational needs. All of this needs to be put into the document, but be assured that this is already a focus and a priority for your leadership team. I'm going to pass it to Tyler, who will talk then about financial sustainability.
Thank you, Monique. Members of the joint board. I'm going to briefly talk about financial sustainability. Obviously, a very important goal for all of us, and it's really our responsibility as good stewards of public funds. So briefly walking through these 5 that we've identified. The first one, we want to ensure that we're forecasting costs and revenues in a way that maintains a financially balanced program both now and in the long-term future. Our second initiative is really intended to ensure that we thoughtfully incorporate life cycle costs in everything from planning into the operational and design decisions that we currently make today, just enhance that a little bit further and as we make those decisions on an ongoing basis in the future. Our third initiative, maximizing revenue generation, very important for us. Really want to do that as much as possible for our operations, which really minimizes costs for our member city funding partners, such as your cities. And also look for additional grant opportunities, competitive grant awards that we can leverage to bring additional service on board or explore some pilot programs, things like that throughout the region. Our fourth initiative focuses on the importance of having a really excellent procurement process with efficiencies that ensure the most competitive and timely contract services, removing any unnecessary barriers for our business community to compete with these contracts. And then lastly, really, engaging leadership to ensure that we continue to identify cost efficiencies for our existing operations and future operations. Questions? Yes.
I've been quiet up to now, so I couldn't last too much longer, right? So is one of the ideas that you might be sharing with us in more detail later something that could come from not just the leadership team, but from the employees and the staff members involved in the processes? In other organizations in which I've worked, sometimes the best ideas for cost improvements have come from the people who actually do the work. And so being able to say, hey, what can we do that either reduces a barrier to you getting your job done, or what ideas do you have that could help us save time, save money, and make your job easier, actually come from staff, from the employees as opposed to leadership. So is that something that you might be able to consider go forward, or you might already be doing it and I just don't know?
Thank you, Councilmember Klein. I think we need to adjust the language and replace leadership team with all staff, because you're right. A lot of times it's the team members who are closest to the specific process that have the best ideas. Yeah.
Thank you. Any other questions before I turn it over to Monique? All right, thank you.
All right, so same question again as last time. Is there anything significant missing from these sets of initiatives that are focused on the foundational goal that would help to move the needle on customer experience? And again, if not today, but over Christmas dinner, you got an idea, reach out to Jessica and she'll be happy to engage.
I just like to say from the basis
Yeah,
of
that meeting, I want to talk about that. Great. My team and I want to thank you for allowing us to participate in this effort. We will continue to engage with Valley Metro as it relates to this work, but very excited about what you have planned here for the next 5 years. And maybe, Sean, I don't know if you have anything, or Rob, any closing remarks? Great, thank you. And then I will pass it to Jim. Thank you.
Thanks, Monique. I just want to say it's been a pleasure working with your team as well. This has been a great experience, and we much appreciate all the excellent work. So I'd like to close us out today by just touching on what our key next steps in this process are, and to share with you our thoughts on how we can continue to report to you both on the actions we're taking in pursuit of this plan and the outcomes that they're achieving. So you see on this timeline, our next formal engagement with the board will be at our January board cycle, where we will bring the goals and initiatives that we've discussed today before you for approval. As Jessica mentioned, however, those goals and initiatives are intended to represent 5 years of work for the agency. And so one of the things that we're working on at a staff level right now, you see sort of on that top colored bar, is identifying what are the specific actions that we will be taking in pursuit of these goals and initiatives for the remainder of FY24 and for fiscal year 25. In addition, we're working on developing the performance measures that we'll use to report to you both on, what we have done for sort of a leading indicator perspective, and what outcomes that we're seeing with relate to the strategic goals from a lagging indicator perspective. And so those metrics will come to you as part of a reporting cycle that I'll touch on here in a moment. First for your feedback, and then in an ongoing way to keep you regularly in touch with what's being done in pursuit of these goals and initiatives, and what outcomes that we're seeing. In addition, as Jessica mentioned, many of the things that we will be doing in pursuit of this plan, we can do within our existing operating budget. But there are going to be things, maybe some of them capital, others operations, that will have resource implications that we'll need to bring to you as part of our annual budget process. And so starting in February, you'll see the first draft of our FY25 budget. That approval and discussion process will play out over the next months, and we'll be calling out specifically where we're seeking resources to address a goal or initiative in this plan. You'll see that explicitly in the budget that we present to you, so we can have that discussion and prioritize aligning our resources with the outcomes that we seek. And then lastly, we need to put in place a process that we'll be using to keep you regularly in touch with what we're doing and apprised of the outcomes that we're seeing. As we thought about this, there were really 2 key considerations. One was, with 9 goals and potentially 33 initiatives, you just can't cover all that at once. It's too much content for us to be able to update you on in the depth that you should expect in sort of a single meeting. So we're probably going to have to tackle that across a couple of meetings. Secondly, I hope, as you've seen, many of the initiatives that we've talked about today, are really significant projects in and of themselves that'll play out over the course of years. And so we need to make sure that those updates are frequent enough that you're very much in touch with the work that we're doing, but are also spaced far enough apart that we actually have time to implement steps to make progress and to have results to share with you, because we want to ensure that this is a results-focused plan. So the way that we propose balancing those 2 imperatives is by breaking the 9 goals into 2 groups, and you see those groups color-coded in blue and in green here. You'll notice that the blue group tends to be a little more customer external facing, so things like reporting on customer experience, on security, on operational excellence. The green group tends to be things that are a little more internal facing, so investing in staff, leadership and execution, financial stability, et cetera. Break them into 2 groups and then presenting to you a detailed report on what actions we have taken and what results that we are seeing vis-a-vis the KPIs associated with these on sort of a rotating 6-month basis. So because we don't have board meetings in January and February, the axes that made sense there was to do the first group, to report the first group in February, report the second group in May, then come back in August to report the first group again, then come back in November to report the second group. And so that way we're tackling these in some logical groupings, since there's since these goals have interrelatedness to each other. We're doing so in a setting where we can deep dive, really speak to what we've done, what outcomes we're seeing, and get your feedback on that. But we're not sort of monopolizing the board schedule with all strategic plan all the time. So you would be getting a report out from us effectively every 3 months, and they would simply rotate between sort of the more external facing group and the more internal facing group. So that's our thought on how we can keep you very much in touch with what we're doing and what outcomes we're seeing, have time for a detailed discussion on an ongoing basis. And as you saw on the previous slide, we would propose making that first presentation to you in the month of May. So just in advance of the adoption of the fiscal 25 budget. And then we would simply pick up from there with the presentation in August, the presentation in November, and so on. So those are our thoughts on both the next steps in the reporting cycle. If you have feedback for us on those, we very much appreciate it.
Sounds good.
Oh, there we go. Yes, go ahead.
Just go.
Yeah, this is free,
Just go, Laura.
this is free flow right now.
Yeah, I just have a question. Hi, Doreen Garland from Tempe. Is there a place like a dashboard that customers would be able to see what your progress is? Because you could complain about something, but if you were able to get on there and see.
That's an excellent point. Yeah, so Councilman, that dashboard doesn't exist at the moment, but I think we are seeing that as part of the outcomes of the data and technology goal around number 4. The first one was making our data more reliable and accessible, and I think that means not only internally but to our customers. And so I think it's an excellent point and something we'll definitely incorporate.
Anybody else? I think the cycle is going to probably become overwhelming. So I would just encourage brevity. Perhaps some brief by exception. Let's, but talk to the exceptions. We all get hundreds of pages of reports for council meetings, et cetera. And sometimes it's a matter of an up arrow or a down arrow, and there's no explanation on the down arrows. So give us a little something, and celebrate every once in a while, but kind of keep in mind who this audience is when you're reporting this stuff out. And I'm hearing laughter, so I'm assuming everyone's in agreement with me on what I'm talking about material wise. So
Thank you.
no other questions, I don't think.
Chair, it's exactly what I was thinking. So the slide before, it says KPIs, which is not defined anywhere on the page. I'm really big on acronyms and not knowing what they mean. And then we have no idea what the pink means on the page on this slide for the average person looking at it. My staff and I talked about it yesterday as we were briefing for today's meeting, and we were like, okay, so it looks like we think the pink means this. So maybe some way to just describe that. So just going on with the onboarding and making sure that the information is straightforward and understandable.
Thanks for that feedback.
KPI is keep Peterson informed.
I thought you were gonna say,
I thought it was
I thought you
key
were gonna use another I, like in
indicators.
place or,
Oh my goodness.
I know you, Bill.
Oh, no, I'm
He goes to pink
trying to be respectful, Mayor.
Oh.
I see, that's,
Thanks very much for your time.
does that bring us to conclusion here? So as, I'm going to just say as chair and speaking for the entire board, I would like to thank the Guidehouse team for all of your work. I know it's been probably difficult to manage the number of us that are here, but the final product I think has been well worth our time and your time. So greatly appreciate that. And to Jessica, you and the entire, I'm not going to say leadership team, but the entire staff that has been working on this. Been a long time in coming, but I think it sets us in a good direction going forward. So with that, we are going to take a slight break between now and the start of the next meeting. But just remember, the longer you take to get back to the seat, the longer this meeting drags on. And here ends the edict of free-for-all. We go back to everything else. We go back to normal decorum with that. But so we'll take a short break with with the study session, and we'll come back for the joint meeting in just a few minutes. Okay, 1 minute warning.
Which was.
All right, we'll go ahead and get started. I will call to order the joint meeting of the Valley Metro RPTA and Valley Metro Rail. We'll start with item 1, which is public comment. It is the holiday season. I have given Mr. Crowley an extra 1 minute. He asked for 9, so we got 4. So Scrooge sits here. Off we go. Mr. Crowley, floor is yours.
I asked for 6, but we'll just go with this. Here's a map of the West Valley and the bus routes on it. And you guys are going to be discussing Route 685. And I just wonder, when it leaves Desert Sky, how come it doesn't go down like 99th, down to either Buckeye or Lower Buckeye, and then across Tolleson and through the heart of Avondale? Oh, yeah, and then it gets into Goodyear. And all along there, we could have bus stops and expand the system and such, but all you guys are doing is whatever on item 1E and that. And then also you've got a proposal for map design and services for an amount of 1,200,000. Where am I going to get one of those maps? because you don't do the bus book anymore. So what is it that you're doing? And then my favorite one of these is, you know, you never started the clock. I still got 4 minutes. Thank you. All right, we've got the overhaul contract for the light rail. And it's for 3 years with 2 one-year options. With that legislation going up and your strategic plan, they're not going to be getting much money out of the Prop 400. In fact, they're not going to be getting anything but repair services. And when I worked out the amount of monies that you're going to be getting there, originally on the Prop 400 plan, you requested $1 billion for maintenance of the rail. Well, now you're only going to be getting 3.5% of the 40% that transit is going to be getting. I need you bifurcated, and I need the rail to get that money directly and plan for those monies, because right now, what's going to happen? And I also don't see that if for strategic plan that you're planning on that. I also don't understand, because it is now MAG that's creating it. I've always wanted, and the way the original plan was, is for each of the jurisdictions were to get monies according to population and congestion. When I look at Tolleson, Avondale, Litchfield, and Surprise, I know that you don't want to put any money into transit because there would be buses otherwise. So I know that it's MAG that's going to be putting it together, but why aren't you coming up with the plans yourselves showing what it is that you want? That's the way we did it back in '89. So since 1989 till now, I just turned 76. Half of my life has been dealing with this and you people. And originally it was connectivity and circulators. So when you say that we have nothing to do with the plan now because it's in the hands of MAG, well, why don't you get into MAG and let them know what it is that you need and want, each of your communities? Like I said, Tolleson, Avondale, Goodyear, would you like some bus stops and a bus? Well, you just put that route there. Not that hard. And when it comes to the funding of it, oh, damn, that's going to be the state that decides on whether that is where the federal rural funding should go. You have enough of a piggy bank to cover it. You don't need to spend $53 million on expanding your constabulary to address the hoi polloi on the rail. And I don't know whether it's color, age, or what that your son has the problem with,
Yeah.
but that's the citizens that are on the rail.
Thank you, Blue.
I also would like to point out that when it comes to connectivity,
Blue, time's up.
I've still got 45 seconds.
Not after, not with those comments. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to finish, please. I would like to know why, Gilbert, you haven't figured out that
Mr.
railroad
Colley,
and
you're recording.
connectivity to,
Please sit down. Thank you.
thank you. Have a pleasant.
Good deed goes unpunished. All right, I've forgotten to have Pat call the roll. I got so wrapped up in free-for-all that I left that off, so. Yeah, chaos reigns. Welcome to Between My Ears. Pat, please call the roll.
Thank you. City of Avondale, Councilmember Maxine White.
Here.
City of Buckeye, Councilmember Clay Goodman.
Present.
City of Chandler, Councilmember O.D. Harris.
Oh, yeah, I would have left too.
City of El Mirage, Councilmember Monica Dorsey. Town of Fountain Hills, Councilmember Peggy McMahon.
Here.
Town of Gilbert, Mayor Bridget Peterson. City of Glendale, Councilmember Lauren Tomlichoff. City of Goodyear, Councilmember Bill Stipp.
Present.
Maricopa County Supervisor Jack Sellers. City of Mesa Vice Mayor Francisco Heredia.
Here.
City of Peoria, Councilmember John Edwards.
City of Phoenix, Councilmember Laura Pastor.
Here.
Town of Queen Creek, Vice Mayor Jeff Brown. City of Scottsdale, Vice Mayor Kathy Littlefield.
Here.
City of Surprise, Councilmember Allie Klein.
Here.
City of Tempe, Councilmember Doreen Garlid.
Here.
City of Tolleson, Mayor Rodriguez. Town of Wickenburg, Mayor Rui Pereira.
Here.
And Town of Youngtown, Mayor Michael LaVault.
Yes, Pat, I'm here.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Pat. All right, item 2 on the agenda is the Chief Executive Officer's report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Today, this being our last board meeting of the calendar year, I'd like to give you a brief overview of some of our activities and accomplishments in 2023. It is hard to believe the year is coming to a close. You know, before I review some of this, it's been a year of change. We've been developing the strategic plan that we just walked through. It's been a lot of change in the organizational structure, new team members, but we haven't missed a beat. We have been pushing out new initiatives, keeping our focus on the customer, delivering capital programs all through the way. So let's celebrate a few of our accomplishments. We began the year in January with our mobile testing program. That was agency staff, city staff, and our riders out testing our new mobile fare, which we launched just in time for us to host Super Bowl 57. During Super Bowl, Valley Metro supported over 250,000 rides. That was a 60% increase over our normal ridership. The staff did great. We had over 150 volunteers serving 1,500 hours and across 400 team members supporting that week-long event. We've had over 400 downloads of the Valley Metro app since the launch of mobile fare, so our customers can now plan and pay for their trip using a single platform. In February, we awarded $75,000 in arts grants to more than a dozen organizations as part of our South Central Arts Grants program. This program funds smaller scale projects. It's things like musical performance, dance. I had the opportunity to visit the unveiling of a mural at Lowell School on the South Central corridor. We're already beginning to see some of these projects come to fruition, and it is a fantastic expression of that community. In March, we began a new Valley Metro ticketing partnership with our league champion, Phoenix Rising Soccer Club. And Phoenix Rising fans have been using Valley Metro. I've had the chance to go to a couple of games with my family, and those train cars are packed with fans in red and black out supporting our team. April was also a time when we celebrated Valley Metro Bike Month. This is an opportunity for us to promote some of the work that Valley Metro does for our commute solutions programs. We are assisting residents across the valley with identifying safe routes to work and the other places they travel via biking and walking. And on April 19th, we had the chance to bike to work. And so I loved biking to work with a few hundred of my friends on the morning of April 19th. Our Tempe streetcar was recognized in the month of April by the Women's Transportation Seminar Phoenix chapter for their 2023 Innovative Transportation Project of the Year. Tempe streetcar celebrated a number of firsts for us. It is our first off-wire hybrid rail project. It is our first streetcar project, and we are far exceeding ridership expectations, and streetcar is now among our highest ridership routes. Fantastic. Congratulations, Councilmember Garland. And on May 11th, we recognized Alana. She is a freshman at Pinnacle High School in Phoenix as our 23rd annual Design a Transit Route Contest winner. This is one of several different programs that Valley Metro has to reach out to school students from across the valley and engage them through art and learning about public transportation. Alana's art was titled Let Your Success Ride With Us. And here you see a bus wrapped with Alana's art and also a train car wrapped with Alana's art over the course of 1 year. We also in spring expanded our bus advertising program to allow for more advertising on buses and trains with Outfront Media. And this is allowing us to capture more revenue, one of those strategic plan initiatives that we just reviewed. In June, at last, we received our first low or no emissions Federal Transit Administration grant. That grant is being put to work to support the purchase of 20 battery electric buses and infrastructure beginning at the Tempe bus facility to include expansion into the Mesa bus operations and maintenance facility. As part of our efforts to keep our customers safer and more secure, as well as our team members, we kicked off Operation Blue Ride in collaboration with local law enforcement. And this operation is focused on creating more visible law enforcement presence on our buses and improving response times and awareness of security on board the buses. In June, we had a study session focused on security, which we touched on a little bit earlier. And at last, on July 31st, the House, the Senate, and Governor Hobbs signed enabling legislation for Proposition 400E. This has been and is going to continue to be an important topic amongst this board, our staff, and our regional leaders. And of course, Proposition 479 is heading to voters in November. I don't yet have the day count, but we'll be counting down those days. And that education and outreach is going to be an absolutely critical task for staff in this board. We also hosted Senator Kelly and Mayor Gallego to celebrate the 1-year anniversary of the Inflation Reduction Act. That's President Biden's clean energy plan for providing investments for a clean energy economy. And we have already so many wonderful examples of this investment here at Valley Metro. We look forward to rolling out and then expanding our zero emissions program. In September, we hit our $1 million milestone with the South Central Small Business Financial Assistance Program, which we administer on behalf of the City of Phoenix. These are grants to small, locally owned businesses along our light rail corridors that may be impacted by construction. This is a wonderful program. Those small businesses are why we exist, and we want them to be here serving our communities once we open. We also awarded the East Valley Bus Operations and Maintenance Service Contract to Keolis. In just a moment, I'll give you a little bit of an update on Keolis. And in October, we initiated our system testing on our Northwest Extension Phase 2. I'll give you an update on that. We are in the height of our testing and preparedness for an opening of Northwest in early 2024. In November, we hosted the Impact National Conference, November 5th through 8th. This was a huge conference. It was a wonderful conference. We had so many tours and programs throughout the Valley. It was fantastic to see our Valley through the lens of visitors from outside, so many of whom said, wow, Phoenix has so much going on. I had no idea you had such a fantastic transportation system. This is such a dynamic city. So it was good for us to put that conference on. But I think as a staff, not just Valley Metro, but our member cities, it was wonderful to participate in that and learn from our peers from other parts of the country, but also give us a renewed energy as we celebrated and remark on the many accomplishments across the region. On November 18th, we had a party. We hosted Fiesta on South Central Avenue. And this event really highlights and promotes businesses along the South Central corridor. It's a wonderful family-oriented event. Thanks to VMR Chair Pastor for being our master of ceremonies on that day. It was a good day. And finally, as the holiday season is upon us, this is our annual transit wrap for bus and train, celebrating transporting you to a magical world. It's fantastic. Yeah, I love it. I think our team does a fantastic job of really giving the community things to celebrate. That concludes our year. This was my first year here at Valley Metro. It was a wonderful year. We did a lot. 2024 is going to be equally packed and exciting. I want to provide you just a couple quick updates on major projects. Our Keolis transition is moving along well. We are 31 days from implementation when Keolis will assume operations and maintenance responsibilities for bus service across East Valley from TransDev. We have a very detailed transition management program. Staff is doing a wonderful job of supporting that effort, no less on the heels of a transition in paratransit providers in the month of October. We are on time. Our hiring is on schedule. 72% of our existing operators from TransDev have accepted positions. 77% of our other key positions, namely mechanics, have accepted offers. We do expect to be fully staffed when the now Keolis team members join our team in the late hours of New Year's Eve. And a capital projects update, I just want to give you a little more info on Northwest Extension Phase 2, because between now and the next time we come together in January, you'll be receiving invitations for us to celebrate the opening of Northwest Phase 2. We had the opportunity to support the city of Phoenix on November 17th for the dedication of the Thelda Williams Transit Center. This dedication, unfortunately, was a posthumous dedication, as we did lose Councilmember Williams previously that week. But it was a wonderful event, and I think a great celebration of her legacy and a wonderful preview of the Northwest Extension Phase 2 and the Thelda Williams Transit Center. Ms. Williams was a Phoenix council member, an interim mayor 2 times, and a Valley Metro board member. On the south side, things are really starting to come together. Those stations, we've got signage out letting customers know that there's not revenue service there because they look ready to go. But we do plan revenue operations in 2025. This is our Lincoln station on First Avenue. You can see the art, which is also our shade canopies at that station. It looks beautiful. If you have the opportunity to spend a little time wandering around downtown, I encourage you to check out these stations. And on the southern portion of the corridor, we've come out of the ground. We're actually have laid a lot of track, and now the stations themselves are beginning to take shape. So wonderful, and it's fantastic that the community can start to really see this project come together that has been under construction for some time. Looking ahead, we do not have a December board cycle, though we are already at work on the January cycle. We look forward to presenting our strategic plan to you for adoption, incorporating the feedback from today's study session on January 18th. And we will kick the new year off bright and early with transportation management and rail management committees and audit finance subcommittees on January 3rd and 4th. This concludes my presentation and 2023 update. Are there any questions I may answer?
Not seeing any. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
Item 3 is the Audit and Finance Subcommittee update. Councilmember Goodman.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Audit and Finance Committee did meet. I could tell because I could see lips moving. We had some technical issues. I appreciate Councilmember Pastor stepping in and conducting whatever business I couldn't hear. So that concludes my report.
Wow, talk about free for all. Okay.
Everything went well.
Oh, I wasn't there. Everything went well.
Yeah.
Good. All right, I got it. All right, well, we look forward to the budget process starting in 2024. The next item on the agenda is approval of the minutes from the October 19th joint meeting. Those have been in our packet. Pending any questions, I will entertain a motion to approve.
So move item number 4.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? Ayes have it. Item 5 is the insurance coverage renewal for the commercial property and liability and workers' comp and employers' liability. And I believe, Michael, you're doing this? All right.
Thank you, Chair. I'll try to keep it under an hour.
You're not paid by the hour anymore. I'm on, like, take care of your servers today, people. I'll be here all week.
We sent out earlier a report that details the insurance recommendations for this coming renewal cycle. I'll just give you a couple of really brief summary points on that. So we'll be maintaining all of the same lines and types of coverages that we've had in the past years. We're not adding or removing any of those lines of coverage. What you're going to see is a typical average increase over the last 5 years. We see about an average of a 21% increase year over year for insurance costs. This year, it came in a little bit lower than that. We're at 14%. Some of the rates actually went down. Cyber, excess liability, those premiums came down. But you'll see also that some went up, and that's not only because of the economic pressures that are really controlling all of our costs, but also it's because I think a way for us to see where Valley Metro is making progress. We have more property to insure than we had before, and so there's going to be an increased cost that comes with that. Our fleet expanded by 24%. Our property values have gone up by $108 million. That's an 85% increase in our bridges alone as we bring the Northwest Extension on that we just talked about. And we also had new employees. We had 37 new employees. And so all of that progress also has a cost associated with that when it comes to insurance. And that's why you're seeing the rates that we have for this year. The other thing that I wanted to point out is that we were conducting an actuarial study this last year to evaluate our insurance rates and making sure that we're hitting the sweet spots where it comes to our deductibles and the amount of coverage that we have. One of the things that the actuarial study is looking at, we don't have a final report yet, but I have draft numbers back, is that if we were to go fully self-insured on one or more of our lines of insurance, and specifically they were looking at the inland marine coverage. The reason that we looked at that is because there aren't very many insurers that will provide that coverage. And so we want to be prepared in the future if we don't have any options and we have to go self-insured. And also because of the increased self-insurance rates that we have to have so that we can afford insurance, whether it makes sense for us to do the self-insurance. Oh, inland marine, I'm sorry with the term there. Inland marine is our light rail and streetcar vehicles. And so they run, we have challenges in coverage sometimes because those vehicles can run up to $5 million a piece to cover. So the actuary looked at rates in going self-insured, and it is possible to do that. I think that it's a discussion that we should have over the next several years because we'll have to set aside additional funds to be able to cover any losses ourselves. Right now, that's looking in the $10 to $15 million range that we would have to be able to do that, which may make sense in the long term. And so it is a discussion that we should probably have in the next couple of years. Other than that, the information is included in the reports, and I'd be happy to answer any questions if you had them from the report itself.
Great, thank you. Any questions on this? If not, I will entertain a motion that we authorize the Chief Executive Officer to purchase renewal coverage for Valley Metro insurance needs for commercial property and liability insurance coverage, including workers' compensation and employers' liability from December 1st, 2023 to November 30th, 2024 for an amount not to exceed $6,641,371. RPTA's obligation will not exceed $401,284. Valley Metro Rail's obligation will not exceed $6,240,087. Do I have a motion?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Oh, yeah, discussion.
No. What is happening?
What is happening? What was in these sandwiches or those cookies?
What is the cookies?
Yeah, everyone's on a sugar high. All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Item 6 on the agenda is the travel expenditures and solicitation. We got to come up with a better name.
Really?
Expenditures and solicitations. Yeah.
Are you sure about that?
Yeah, you sure about that? That is presented for our information. If you have questions, you can forward that to the Valley Metro staff. Anybody have anything to discuss? Seeing none. Item 7 is the report on current events and suggested future agenda items. Does anybody have any they'd like to see for the joint meeting?
Hi, Chair. Thank you so
Ma'am.
much, Chair. I just wanted to, thank you for recognizing me. But I wanted to share the success that we had with offering We Ride for free in the city of Avondale. We had an average ridership about 350 people per day from the October to November 17th timeframe that we offered We Ride for free in Avondale. Now that it's back to that charge of maybe $1 for students, $2 for our average rider, we are getting about 250 people riding per day. So I just wanted to give an update on the ridership that we have out in Avondale, and heck, maybe even a suggestion for Valley Metro. Maybe we can offer a day or two free to inspire ridership for our population once we're doing maybe a big unveiling or opening up new stations to possibly entice folks to jump on our product and enjoy public transit. But it worked out well, and I just wanted to share that with you.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am. Is that okay? Is that okay to say ma'am in that regard?
That's good.
I got a lecture over here about don't say ma'am.
Oh, it's okay with me. It's fine. So, something possibly for a future agenda item, sir? Maybe, and maybe this is something that was presented before I was on the board, something on emergency preparedness down the road. Not that I plan any, recent emergencies, but you never know. And how it might impact the different means of transportation, because they may have different emergency issues, whether it's no electricity or flood or famine or locusts. So just something that down the road that would say, what processes, not that you want to give out your trade secrets as to what you plan to do, but just an overall on emergency preparedness. Thank you.
Oh, no. Thank you.
Perhaps we could schedule that in conjunction with an upcoming security update. Maybe it's a safety and security update. We did just hire our first emergency manager. This was a recommendation from the American Public Transit Association Safety and Security Peer Review that we conducted earlier this year. So Adrienne Ruiz and her team are leaning into emergency preparedness.
Great, thank you. Any other items? All right, with that, I'll go ahead and adjourn the joint meeting, and we'll go right into the Valley Metro RPTA meeting. First item on this agenda is the consent agenda, which is items 1A through 1D. Item 1E has been pulled and will be considered separately. So may I have a motion to approve the consent agenda items 1A through 1D?
So moved.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The
Yeah,
aye.
I didn't catch the second.
Any one of us.
Councilmember Edwards, I believe.
Like any one of us.
Item 1E from the consent agenda is the AHO service, which is Route 685 intergovernmental agreement. I believe staff is prepared for a presentation.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. This route is a little bit unique, and so Tom Young is going to give us a quick overview and history on the AHO service.
Members of the board. As Jessica said, I'm here to provide a brief background history on Rural Route 685, how we coordinated those services with RTA of Pima County, and the most recent occurrences that resulted in us recommending an intergovernmental agreement with RTA of Pima County to provide the long trips from Gila Bend to Phoenix. So Rural Route 685 service was implemented in 2005 as a flex service with RTA of Pima County running service from Ajo to Gila Bend and Valley Metro running service from Gila Bend to Phoenix. Flex service allows for customers along the route to actually call in and have the bus stop at additional stops other than just the scheduled stops. The two services connected at the Texaco Food Mart in Gila Bend. Rural Route 685 is funded primarily through rural federal grant, and for operations and other administration and maintenance costs also have a large federal grant. Daily ridership averages between 5 and 16 people on each of the 5 long trips from Ajo, with an average of 2 to 3 people using the Buckeye service on each of the 4 trips per day. Valley Metro worked with RTA of Pima County to ensure a joint procurement was awarded to the contract to make sure one provider did all the service. This eliminated the need for people to transfer between the 2 services. It could be run straight through. Valley Metro continues to reimburse the contractor for service in Maricopa County, while RTA reimburses for all services in Pima County, including SR 85 to the Gila Bend transfer point. Since the beginning of the current contract, which commenced in November of 22, the contractor has submitted 2 requests for increase in rates due to insurance premium increases. RTA and Valley Metro could not support the increase in insurance rates. Therefore, the contractor has given notice. Their last day to provide the service is January 20th, 2024. This request is to enter into an intergovernmental agreement with RTA of Pima County for their alternative service contractor to operate the long trips, while we'll move the short Buckeye trips to our demand response service provider right here in Maricopa County. So at this point, that's a brief history, how we got to where we are today, and I can answer any additional questions.
Great. Thank you, Tom. Does anybody on the board have any additional questions that Tom may not have covered?
Yeah, Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir.
So I had asked for a presentation. I just need a little more clarification. So given the fact that the ridership is so small, are we looking, or are they looking at different alternatives for getting these individuals to and from, rather than having a full-blown bus doing this service?
It is a practice. We look at all our routes and different alternatives to the services. I know based off this action over the next 12 months, we're going to be looking a lot closer at this for different methods.
So this is a 12-month contract?
It'll follow the grant process, which the federal grants run through September of next year.
And is there any other partnerships or partnership funding that we could look at, or that has been looked at to maybe subsidize some of this? Because again, my concern is the fact that, you know, this is a Pima County initiative, but, you know, we're subsidizing some of this. And so is that our normal process? I mean, I've never heard of this before, where we're subsidizing a rural route through Maricopa funding.
Stephanie, could you go back to the map slide? And I think this is helpful to the extent we can see it. So Valley Metro operates only the service in Maricopa County. So we're not operating trips to Gila Bend. And in fact, most of what we're serving are trips that occur between Buckeye and Gila Bend. So it's trips that begin and end within Maricopa County. There are some cross-county trips, but we only bear the Maricopa portion. So the county boundary, if you can see, it is much further south and close to Ajo. That dashed line is the service that Pima County, under this new arrangement, would actually be operating.
Like I said, my biggest concern is the fact that if we're doing 2 to 15 residents, it just seems like from a cost, it's not a cost effective for us to be engaged in this route. And that's my opinion.
Yeah, we do have some options. And of course, with our new West Valley operations and maintenance contract, we'll have more mobility tools still. This route is a little bit unique in that it is funded. The majority of the funding actually comes from a Federal Transit Administration rural route. We don't have many funding opportunities to support operations costs with federal funds. Rural routes rural services is one of those areas that FTA does invest in, but we are at just over, I think, 42% of Prop 400 funds are supporting it. So your point is well taken, Councilmember Edwards, and as Tom mentioned, we're going to continue looking at better ways to provide this critical mobility. It's a small number of people, but those trips are being made.
Thank you. So with that, Mr. Chair, I mean, if there's no other questions, I'll make a motion to approve 1A.
Okay, item 1E, we've had a motion to approve and a second. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed, say aye. Or nay, say whatever. Shout your name out.
Whoever wants to.
Councilmember Goodman pointed out that at 1:15 I lost control and I actually thought it was 2 hours earlier. So, fortunately, this meeting is coming to an end because the item 2 on the agenda is report on current events and suggested future current agenda items. Any others from either end of the table? No.
Chair Smith? Yes, sir.
Seriously. Okay, go ahead. Go ahead. I'm just.
On one version of the agenda, and I might be looking at the wrong one, it says Chair Pastor will provide members the opportunity to report, just to modify. Oh,
That's for the next agenda.
sorry, okay. Oh, sorry, never mind.
You're welcome to join the rest.
No, ma'am. Thank you. No further comments, or I look too far ahead.
All right, outstanding. All right, so with celebration, we will have our next board meeting on January 18th at 11:15 p.m., where I will once again lose control of the meeting. But with that, I'd like to wish everyone on the board and all the Valley Metro staff and everybody who's been working on public transit for this year a very blessed and happy holiday season. With that, this meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.
Metro and Rail Board of
Okay, I will take control now.
In a minute after.
In a minute.
Sure, with 3 people.
1 minute, 1 minute. Happy holidays. We're getting ready. Bye-bye. I'll get you.
Tiffany has been on the road talking to many cities about ways.
All right. We're going to call this meeting to order. Yeah, All right, I'm calling this meeting to order. We have consent agenda items, items 1A all the way to 1D. Does anybody want to pull any of the consent items agenda to discuss? If not, can I have a motion?
Motion.
There's a motion and there's a second. Any discussion? No discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those that oppose? The ayes take it. Next item is regular agenda. Item number 2, anybody have a report on current events and suggested future items, agenda items? I hear none. Next meeting, Thursday, January 18th, 2024 at 11:15 a.m. I am now calling this meeting to adjournment. Happy holidays, and I held control of it. Thank you.